Alright guys, so today we're going to look at absolute value problems. This is page 10 of your packet. We've got to go through here and work the rest of these out here so we can review for this absolute value quiz. So let's take a look here and go through these. Now again, the first thing you want to do with these problems is you want to get everything away from the absolute value sign. So I'm actually going to circle or box off the absolute value right there. And now what I want to do, now that I've got it, kind of got that set apart, I want to take everything else that's on the same side of the equation away from that absolute value sign. So let me undo that real quick. I just wanted to box that off to show you what I'm trying to do. And so now let's go ahead and start doing this. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to undo addition or subtraction. So I can see we've got plus 2 here, so let's subtract 2 on both sides. That cancels out. That leaves me with 2 times the absolute value of x equals 12. The next step after undoing addition and subtraction is to undo multiplication or division. And you can see right here at the front of this problem we have 2 times the absolute value of x. That's multiplying. So now we need to undo that. So let's do that. To undo multiplication, we divide. So we divide by 2 all the way across. That leaves me with the absolute value of x equals 6. And now here's the most important step in any absolute value problem, and that is once you get the absolute value by itself, we now have to write it out into 2 separate equations. We drop the bars off, but we write it out as 2 separate equations. And on this one it's really easy because we already have the x isolated. It's already by itself. And so we have x equals 6 and x equals negative 6. Now, just so you know, it will not always be this easy. It will not always come out this nice and clean. And typically, in a lot of kids, a lot of times, if you see that x equals 6, you'll immediately just put, well, x equals negative 6. That's not always going to work, and we'll see why here in a few minutes on a different problem, but I just wanted to show you this one first. Alright, so let's move on to the next problem, number 11 here. And on this one, again, we need to get everything away from the absolute value sign, so let's do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to undo addition and subtraction. And look right here, we have this positive 5, so let's get rid of that. To move that over to the other side, we subtract it. I'm going to bring down absolute value of x plus 2 equals, and then 5 minus 5 is 0. Well, if you remember from the other day when we went through this lesson, I believe it was actually on page 8. At the very bottom of that page, you had a couple of questions asking about how many solutions does each problem have. And remember, you can either have 2 solutions, 1 solution, or no solutions. And so we look here, and if you remember, when you get down to a 0, you're only going to have 1 solution at that point. So let's work through this real quick. Now, we have the absolute value sign isolated. It's by itself on the left side of the equation. So we need to write out 2 equations. But if we write out 2 equations, like this right here, we just drop off the bars. Normally, we would have this one equal to a positive number, and then this one over here would be equal to a negative number. But there's no such thing as a negative 0. Okay? 0 is a neutral number. You have positive, you have negative, and then you have the neutral number, which is 0. So this right here doesn't exist, and so I'm just going to scratch that all out over here. We don't need that part of the problem. It's simply going to be this one on the left, x plus 2 equals 0. And so now we just need to get x by itself, and so we subtract 2 on both sides. That's going to leave me with x equals negative 2. And so that is my only answer on that problem. Number 12, let's keep going here. Again, we don't want to get rid of that 5 yet. We do want to get rid of it, just not yet. So we need to subtract the 9 first. We have to undo addition and subtraction very first thing. So let's take a look here. We cross out those 9s. That brings down 5 times x plus 2 equals 24 minus 9 is 15. So now we've got this problem, 5 times the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 15. We still don't have the absolute value isolated, so we have to get rid of this 5 now. We've already undone addition and subtraction. Now we need to undo multiplication or division. And right here, there's like a little times symbol right there. 5 times the absolute value of x plus 2. So to undo multiplication, again, we divide. So I'm going to divide by 5. That's going to leave me with the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 3. At this step, this is the most important step. You need to now separate it because we have the absolute value isolated. We need to separate this into 2 separate equations. The first one is going to simply be x plus 2 equals 3. We just drop the bars off from up here. And then the next one is going to be x plus 2 equals negative 3. And from here we can simply solve this out. So we'd subtract 2, and notice you can subtract 2 all the way across. So that is going to work all the way across for both of those equations. That's going to cancel and that's going to cancel. That leaves you with x equals, so 3 minus 2 is going to be 1. And then on this side we have x equals negative 3 minus 2, which will be negative 5. And so that will be our final answer. X equals 1 and x equals negative 5. Careful when you're doing this on tests. I don't think the test we're doing today will have multiple choice, but on a lot of tests you'll see one of these answers. So you might see x equals 1 or x equals negative 5. To get it right, you have to have both of them. So be very careful about that, okay? So let's take a look here. We'll keep on going. So on this problem, we have 6 times the absolute value of m plus 8 equals 36. Again, we don't have any addition or subtraction to undo. So let's go ahead and get rid of the 6 out front. And we already know that we're multiplying there, so to undo that, we have to divide. So the 6's will cancel. That leaves me with the absolute value of m plus 8 equals 36 divided by 6, which is 6. We have our absolute value isolated. It's by itself. So now we write out our 2 equations. M plus 8 equals 6, and m plus 8 equals negative 6. And again, just like the problem before this, we can do one step all the way across both of these equations because we have to do the same step because this is a positive 8 in both of those. So let's cancel those out. M equals 6 minus 8 is negative 2. Over here we have m equals negative 6 minus 8, which is going to be negative 14. Be careful with your negatives. You've got a calculator. Use them. A lot of people will put that 6 minus 8 is 2, positive 2. They'll do all kinds of crazy things. So make sure you use your calculator to double check your negatives, please. And again, at any point, you can stop this video and pause it, and that way, you know, some of the kids can catch up if you need to. Or if you have any questions at all, you know, pause it after each problem, see if there's any questions about this, because again, you are about to take a quiz on these. Let's go on to the next one, number 14. Looks like we have the absolute value of x plus 5 plus 10 equals 5, so we have to undo addition. Do that first. So that brings down absolute value of x plus 5 equals, and then we have 5 minus 10. Again, be careful with the negatives. That's going to leave you with a negative 5. Now, going back to page 8 the other day, what did we say when you get to this step right here and you have a negative number in the equal to position? So we have the absolute value of x plus 5 equals negative 5. What did we say about that? What we said was that it can't be equal to a negative 5. You can't have an absolute value problem equal to a negative number because absolute value is always what? It's always going to come out to a positive number. The reason for that is that absolute value is a distance. We're literally talking about the distance a number is from 0. So if I had the number 3, that is 3 spots away from 0. If I had negative 3, it's still 3 spots away from 0. It's kind of like if I told you or asked you, how far are we from Nashville? So we're in Murfreesboro. How far are we from Nashville? And just, you know, estimate the distance. You don't have to give me an exact number, but let's say we're 25 miles away. You're not going to say we're negative 25 miles from Nashville. It's a distance. You're going to say, hey, we're 25 miles from Nashville. So you're never going to have a negative distance, and that's why you're not ever going to have a negative absolute value. So at this point, all that to say, at this point right here, when you have the absolute value of x plus 5 equals negative 5, there is no number that you can plug into this x right here that will solve this. So this one is no solution. And it can also be written in numerical form with a 0 with a slash through it. Either one of these answers, no solution or the 0 with a slash through it, they both mean the exact same thing. Number 15. We don't have anything outside the absolute value signs. It's already isolated, which makes it easy. All we have to do at this point is go ahead and write out our two different equations. So x plus 8 equals 10 and x plus 8 equals negative 10. And then just solve those two equations. They're both solved the exact same way. Negative 8 all the way across there. That's going to leave me with x equals 10 minus 8 is positive 2. And then over here, now don't just assume that this is going to be a negative 2. That's where people get into trouble. You need to go through and do the math. So x equals negative 10 minus 8 is not negative 2. Be careful with that. Negative 10 minus 8 is negative 18. That's where a lot of kids will get in trouble, is they'll see, well, this first one was positive 2, so this next one's got to be negative 2. Go through and do the math. Work out the problem. Don't get lazy. All right? Let's keep on going. And again, pause the video if you need to go back and look at anything or let kids catch up. That's fine. So we need to get rid of this negative 6, it looks like, on this problem. So to undo it subtraction, we are going to add 6 to both sides. That's going to cancel out and leave me with the absolute value of m plus 5 equals 30. We've now isolated the absolute value. It's by itself completely on the left side. So let's write out our two equations. We have m plus 5 equals 30 and m plus 5 equals negative 30. From here we need to get the variable by itself. So we subtract 5 all the way across. Those will cancel out, so we have on the left side m equals to 30 minus 5 is 25. And on the right side we have m equals negative 30 minus 5 is negative 35. Be careful with those negatives. I cannot stress that enough. And make sure you're taking all these notes down and getting all this done, because this packet is going to be due on Friday. And we are going to take this up, and you will need to have every one of these notes to get credit for this. Alright, now here's one we haven't seen a lot of. We have absolute value of a divided by 5. Well, again, we've got to isolate that absolute value sign, so we don't have any addition or subtraction to undo, so we can skip that step. But we need to undo multiplication or division. And right here we are dividing by 5. So to undo division, we have to do the opposite, which is to multiply. So we're going to multiply by the denominator, whatever that is. The 5's will cancel out. That leaves me with the absolute value of a equals 9 times 5, which is 45. And then here's an easy one. The absolute value is by itself, so we can go ahead and write out our two equations. So we have a equals 45 and a equals negative 45. So that one wasn't too terrible. Just be careful with that division symbol at the very beginning. Okay, and I believe this is the last one on the page, number 18. So, again, we don't have any addition or subtraction to undo, but we do have a 7 on the denominator here. So we are dividing by 7, which means we need to undo that by multiplying by 7 on both sides. These will cancel out and leave me with absolute value of m minus 4 equals 2 times 7, which is 14. Now we go back through here. We have the absolute value symbol isolated. So let's go ahead and write out our two equations. So m minus 4 equals 14. M minus 4 equals negative 14. And then from here we can simply solve that for m. So we add 4 all the way across because we are undoing the subtraction there by adding. Those cancel out. That's going to leave me with m equals to, let's see, 14 plus 4 is going to be 18. And then on this side we have m equals negative 14 plus 4, which is going to be negative 10. So be careful with those negatives. Always write it out into two different equations, and I think you guys will do just fine with this.